The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 821. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have an amazing Asian woman who Boss Up co-author. She is a transformational coach and also a self-love expert, and I'm really excited to have her on and share her story with us today and share her excitement for the book. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Denise Michelle. Denise, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Sure. I'm great. Thanks, Sheena. Hi, everybody. I am Denise Michelle. I'm a transformational life purpose coach, RTT hypnotherapist, and self-love expert, and really here on a mission to bridge love into the world.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Denise, what's your cultural background?
I am actually half Filipino, half Italian.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And how does the model minority myth hurt Asian women as a whole?
Well, I would definitely say, even for me as someone who grew up as a mixed kid, I oftentimes felt like I didn't belong. I felt like I was kind of a misfit in the world. And, I noticed that some of my, I had a very diverse background as far as friends and whatnot go, but I noticed that there were a lot of other Asian friends that I would have who also had that feeling that they were not good enough, that they were a minority, that they would be treated differently because they look different. And I can definitely relate to that growing up. They would ask, they didn't know what an Asian mixed kid was. They would see me as either black or white, and they would ask, and I'd be like, but I'm Asian. And so, you just see that with people. And it was really heartbreaking as it continues to come up even today in present time.
Thanks for sharing that. And, I've interviewed so many women of mixed race, and that's the one thing they always face, right? It's either they're not, Asian enough or not the other culture, or they don't know where they belong. And we have to realize, just because you're half Asian doesn't mean you're not Asian enough, right? I mean, you still have Asian upbringings, Asian cultures, and it still hits you, right? Like, we still go through the same issues. And so I'm glad you're here to share that, to show others, you're not the only one who went through that. And why is creating a stronger representation of Asian women so important for you?
Well, for me, it has a lot to do with my mom, who was born during the war, at the end of the war, 1945, and she was not born into love. Let's say that. There was a lot of physical and mental, emotional abuse, and my mom really spent a lot of her life not feeling like she was enough and questioned herself. And it really hurt my heart, regardless of how talented she was and how brilliant she was in so many ways. There was even to the point of when she left her body, there were still times where she didn't see herself. And that really hurt me, that she couldn't fully be her authentic self. And, I really want to see, as a representation of her, that Asian women are making their way onto the map, and they have, it's a culture, these cultures of Asian women. A lot of the time it's subservient. They aren't seen or heard. And now is the time. And I'm really grateful to be part of this book, because, we get to help represent something that's so important today.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this book is needed now more than ever. I mean, it's 2021, and yet we don't see any books that highlight Asian women on a cover of a book. And representation is huge, right? In order for us to create that representation, we have to be visible. We have to speak up. We have to be out there and show up. And so I'm really glad this book is coming out. And how does it feel being that representation for so many Asian women in the world?
I love it. I actually, when I was invited into the book, I was a little bit nervous and scared. And at the same time, I felt really honored. It was like, I finally get to honor my Asian roots. And even though, I don't speak Tagalog, I grew up speaking English, and I don't know everything about my Filipino culture, but I know enough to where I can really embrace that and share it with people. And, anytime I would meet another Filipino and I would say something, maybe like a Tagalog word that I knew to them, and or I would ask them, "Oh, are you Filipino?" And they'd be like, "Oh yeah," and I'd tell them I'm half, and their eyes would just light up, and it just, there's just that commonality that you have with them. And then I would share with them where my mom was from, and you immediately have that beautiful connection. So for me, it's all about connection and creating new relationships.
Thanks for sharing. That's so true, because I'm born in the Philippines, and when I'm here in Toronto and I just say like the word salamat, they're like, "Oh my God, you're Filipino. Oh my God." And then they start speaking Tagalog, and I'm not very, very fluent Tagalog. I'm just like, whoa, 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 whoa. I just said one word. But it's great. It's great to see that connection. I totally understand what you mean. And so I'm really glad you're able to experience that as well. And share one reason as to why every Asian woman needs to read this book.
It is time to step into your power. Every woman who is a part of this project, oh my gosh, it's brilliant. It's beautiful. I have some younger cousins who are being asked to kind of stay in the box, to go to college, get the job, don't do your dream, do what's sensible. And they come to me saying, "What did you do? Because that's not what I want." And I'm all about living dreams. And we are here to be our own magic. And we can't do that by living in a box. And it's time for us to step out of that, to be empowered, to be inspired, and to see that it's possible. And these women who have written this book show us just that.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. And it's so true, right? If we can, people can relate to at least one woman in this book, right? Because of the challenges they went through, the issues that they go through. And it's important to highlight that, because they realize if they can do it, then I can do it. And that's the most important thing. And what can readers gain from reading your story?
Well, my story is pretty deep. I talk a lot about the mental illness that I was born with, called borderline personality disorder. I talk about suicidal depression, anxiety, mental health, and how I really came into terms to be a self-love expert, and why that is my mission in life, is to teach love. And how do we get to love? And I didn't go the entrepreneurial route on purpose. It was really by chance, because I felt like I had a greater calling to help people.
Thanks for sharing that. I'm grateful that you're able to share the things you go through, especially with mental health. And most people don't share, like they're going through something, right? Or they have something like that. And I remember, a couple of years ago, I was just in this, I attended this concert, right? It was a children's Filipino concert. And there was a little girl there actually who went up to a group of girls, right? And the first thing she told them was how she actually suffers through social anxiety. And, as soon as she said that, I was like, wow, this girl, first of all, is very brave to share that to a bunch of other girls. But the second thing was the girls actually just accepted her, right? And they just brought her in the circle and they started chatting. They started to connect with each other. And I was like, that's such a beautiful thing, because you don't really see that often or at all. And if we can just learn to just share our vulnerabilities, that can be actually our greatest strength. And you're proof of that, right? And so I'm really glad you're able to share that. And Denise, would you be able to share one boss up tip for our listeners today?
Yeah, I would say whatever your dream is, if there's a dream that you've put on the shelf, if there's a dream that you said is not good enough, that you can't have it for some reason, I want you to really look at that and tell yourself that you can. And I want you to look at your dream and dream big, because one thing that I have learned, I really love Richard Branson, and one thing that he taught me was that if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. And so look at your dream and see that it's possible, because if we can do it, you can do it.
Awesome. I love that tip. And it's so true, right? Like we all get scared. It's just maybe we don't share it as often enough, but we all get scared. But sometimes that fear is like ammo that we can use to take action in our dreams. So I really love that tip. And Denise, can you share with listeners where they can pre-order a copy of the book? If you can share, any websites or social media links they can connect with as well.
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to my website, bridgethelove.com. And you can also find me on Facebook under Denise Michelle. And if you want to find me on Instagram, I am Denise Michelle XOXO.
Thanks for sharing that. To our listeners, if you want to connect with Denise, you can also head on over to the taoofselfconfidence.com and search for Denise's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I really just want to thank Denise today for taking the time to share her wisdom and a bit of her story. And, we're just really excited for this book to come out. So thank you so much, Denise.
Thank you, Sheena. So great to talk to you.
Not a problem. It was really great having you on the show today. And to our listeners, just have a little quick shout out. If you ever wondered what top 3 pieces of advice a successful woman founded business owner would share, tune into brandinggems.com to find out. Branding Gems is a wisdom curation of amazing women from around the world where you will gain different insight and perspectives from their business journey and apply any tips of your own. So be sure to check that out. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another Asian Women Who Boss Up co-author. And I'm really excited for the next episode as well. So tune in and talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.